This story begins at the laboratories of Blackwood Pharmaceuticals, a company conducting clinical trials with human volunteers. A corporate video explains they are in phase 1, where they use healthy people to understand how a drug affects the body before giving it to sick patients. Claire arrives at the facility as a volunteer and meets Allison, her roommate. Allison is very lively and talks non-stop about how nervous she is because she has never done anything like this before. Claire, clearly tired, tells her she had a rough night and wants to sleep, so Allison promises to stay quiet. An announcement summons everyone to the exam room. When they arrive, they discover there is no Wi-Fi or cell signal because they are in a basement. Claire tries to text her mother to stop calling her, but the message won't go through. Dr. Burke introduces herself as the trial supervisor. She explains this is a phase 1 test for a drug called abexithine BRN-14. It will last 5 days with doses that gradually increase. It is a double-blind study, meaning neither the participants nor the doctor know exactly what is in the pills. When Ray asks if they can leave at any point, Burke replies that they must stay on this floor for the entire duration of the study. During lunch, Claire listens to the others talk about the food and the pay. She discovers that several of them have done trials before. Ray mentions rumors about secret trials that pay 50 grand to stop your heart, though another participant calls it a myth. When asked if it's her first time, Claire confirms it is and explains she needs the money because she doesn't have many options. One participant, Vanessa, stays away from the group without speaking. Ray comments that she was homeschooled by very strict religious parents. The nurses begin constantly monitoring the participants with repetitive questions about dizziness, nausea, headaches, and other symptoms. Claire feels exhausted by so many tests and tells the nurse. Later, Allison tries to chat with Claire again, showing her cat photos and asking about tattoos. But Claire barely responds and cuts the conversation short because she wants to rest. In the bathroom, Claire meets Amir, who reveals he is a medical student. Unlike the others, he didn't come for the money. He applied for a summer internship at Blackwood and thought participating in the trial would show them he's a team player. However, he's already starting to wonder what he got himself into. That night, a strange reaction in Claire's brain prevents her from sleeping. When she leaves her room, she finds the others couldn't sleep either and are worried. Marcus confesses he feels something indescribable, like it's much more than just insomnia. The next morning, Dr. Burke downplays the situation, saying it's just a little sleeplessness and not the end of the world. A clock on the wall counts down the hours remaining in the trial. Privately, Burke contacts her superiors to report that the drug is attacking the participants' central nervous systems and causing severe brain inflammation. However, they remind her it's a double-blind trial and she shouldn't know more than necessary. Even when Burke shows them the MRI scans where the inflammation grew during the study itself, her superiors order her to continue. Burke informs the group that the study parameters have changed. They now want to know how long the subjects can stay awake, so they must not try to sleep and must report immediately if they feel tired. Amir tries to speak up, but Burke interrupts him and orders him back to the group. Claire undergoes an MRI and suffers a panic attack because she hates enclosed spaces. While trapped in the machine, she hears her mother's voice and painful memories flood back. She begs to be let out, but the test continues until the end. Afterward, Allison finds her shaken and shares a trick a youth counselor taught her. Imagine playing Tetris, with the blocks falling and the music playing, because it helps the brain stop creating visual memories. Claire thanks her, though she is still upset. When the group sees the new dose has increased considerably, some refuse to take it, saying it is more than they agreed to. Dr. Burke reminds them they can leave whenever they want, but also announces that Blackwood is offering an extra payment of 30,000 euros to any participant who stays until the end. This news creates an explosion of excitement, and everyone celebrates with music and cider as if it were champagne. Claire dances with Allison for the first time and comments that it's strange to dance with someone who isn't trying to sleep with her. But suddenly, Claire feels extremely tired and starts yawning. She informs Burke, who interrupts the celebration and orders everyone to drink water. Burke calls her superiors again to warn them that the participants' immune systems are out of control and requests to stop the trial. But they order her to keep increasing the dosage. The participants stay awake chatting about what they will do with the money. Vanessa wants to be the first in her family to go to college, Ray plans to live in India where 30 grand would last for years, and Claire just wants to find a place to live. When Allison suggests they could live together after the trial, Claire responds harshly, asking if she has any real friends. The comment deeply hurts Allison, who leaves the room. Meanwhile, Amir overhears Burke arguing with her superiors. When she leaves, he sneaks into her office to check her computer. What he finds in the brain scans horrifies him, and he decides to copy all the data onto a drive to take with him when they leave. In the recreation room, the TV starts glitching unexpectedly while the participants try to fix it. Claire approaches Allison to apologize for what she said, but finds her asleep. Suddenly, Allison starts bleeding from her eyes, nose, and ears. She suffers violent seizures until she finally dies on the floor with bloodshot eyes. Dr. Burke appears, horrified. A security alarm triggers throughout the building, announcing an isolation protocol with a 20-second countdown. Burke runs toward the exit with the participants, but the door closes before she can cross. She gets trapped with a piece of metal impaling her abdomen. The others try to pull her out, but it's too late. With her last breath, Burke asks for forgiveness before dying, and the door seals completely, locking them inside. A voice over the loudspeaker announces that isolation is complete, and a counter on the wall resets to 24 hours until the lockdown ends. Amir arrives from Burke's office and warns everyone, do not sleep under any circumstances, or they will die. He explains that he saw the scans. For the last 4 days, their brains were overstimulated by the drug, and now they are starting to shut down. When they sleep, the brain remains active, but what they are feeling now is their brains trying to turn off while the drug prevents it. If they fall asleep, the same thing that happened to Allison will happen to them. A Blackwood video appears on the TV asking for patience during the isolation. It explains this is an automated safety protocol designed to contain threats like infections or leaks, sealing the building and cutting communication lines for 24 hours. When asked how it triggered, Amir says he doesn't know for sure, but perhaps the doctor activated it by accident. He clarifies that it cannot be overridden or deactivated. That is the whole point. Even if the president were inside, that door wouldn't open until the time runs out. Searching the facility, they find smelling salts and divide them up, 5 packets each, hoping they last the night. Amir warns them to use the salts only in an emergency. When Ray finds amphetamines in a cabinet and suggests taking them to stay awake, Amir strictly forbids it. He explains they must not take any stimulants, not even coffee. He asks them to think of their brain as a car on fire that they can still drive because the momentum keeps it running. If they are awake, they are okay. But taking any stimulant would be like throwing gasoline on the fire. The good news is the condition can be treated once they get out, with immunosuppressants and monitoring, or in the worst case, an induced coma. Hours pass, and the group has been awake for over 100 hours. Some exercise to stay alert. Others record videos documenting what is happening because they want someone to pay when this is over. Ray uses up his smelling salts quickly and starts begging the others to share theirs. But no one agrees because everyone has the same amount, and he wasted his. Vanessa screams at him to leave her alone, and Ray gets aggressive, telling her she was always one of those kids who saved their chocolate for later, thinking she was superior to the rest. Vanessa replies that she doesn't believe in God. She left home to get away from that because she hated growing up hearing that everything she did was a sin. Meanwhile, Amir is working in the lab running tests when he suddenly sees Dr. Burke sitting behind him. But when he turns around, he realizes she is still dead, a sign that he is starting to hallucinate from sleep deprivation. In the rec room, Claire stares blankly at a wall while hearing her mother's voice as darkness invades her vision. Just before she drifts off, Marcus shakes her, snapping her out of it. Claire doesn't understand how Marcus seems to be handling it so well. He shows her a scar on his leg, explaining that he shattered his ankle while hiking in the mountains completely alone. The pain was unbearable, and he thought he'd never walk again. But with a freezing night approaching, he didn't want to die, so he simply walked until he found help. He tells Claire that you'd be surprised what you're capable of when you need to survive. Claire goes through the brain scans and patient files in Burke's office. She finds her own psychological profile, describing her as someone with no stable income, socially isolated, with self-destructive behavior, and a limited future. It concludes she was the ideal candidate for high-risk studies. Later, she sees Vanessa using fire to stay awake. Vanessa confesses that she hasn't had an easy life, but she isn't ready for it to end. In the bathroom, Marcus hears whistling, and someone answers him even though he should be alone. When he turns on the faucet, the water falls silently. He only hears the sound several seconds after turning it off. The same thing happens when he taps the mirror. Unnerved, he leaves the bathroom and follows the whistling down the hallways until he reaches the lobby. He is amazed to see the exit door open. Marcus walks through the door into deep darkness, but a moment later, he is found dead on the floor, victim of a hallucination that caused him to fall asleep. With 15 hours remaining, tension mounts. Claire feels dizzy and has a vision of Allison waking up, causing her to clumsily stumble away from the group. In the kitchen, she uses fire to revive herself by burning her hand. Although the wound is severe, it manages to keep her awake and alert. After bandaging herself, she returns to the group and announces she is tired of waiting. They are going to find a way to escape. The group maps out the facility to identify which wall they need to break down. Amir warns them it is useless because the facility is designed so nothing gets out during a lockdown, but the group ignores him. They start hitting the wall with an axe, taking turns until they make a hole big enough to see the other side. But Amir was right. Behind it lies a plated metal wall as thick as a vault door. Ray loses his patience, yelling that Amir only tells them what won't work, but never offers ideas. Claire decides to go talk to Amir. When she finds him in the lab, he hands her a confession letter while staring at Burke's lifeless face. He admits he caused the lockdown. By copying the scan files, he breached the system's security and triggered the automated protocol. Overwhelmed by guilt, he wants to fall asleep and let it all end. Claire stops him immediately, telling him that's in the past and they need his help to get out. Using the metaphor of the brain as a burning car, Claire asks if they can do something like pop the hood or hotwire it. This inspires Amir. He proposes using methyl iodide to mimic the effects of a stroke, momentarily cutting off blood flow to the brain. Normally this would cause brain death, but with their current side effects, it might buy them time. If they inject a drug called TPA after the dose, there would be time for the enzyme to catalyze and break the clot before it becomes irreversible. Claire runs to tell the others, but runs into Paul, who warns her not to trust Amir. He shows her an empty bottle of stimulants he found among Amir's things, the same ones Amir forbade them from taking. At that moment, the power cuts out, plunging everything into darkness. Claire and Paul use their phone flashlights to find the fuses, but Claire begins to hallucinate, hearing the voices of her mother and Allison. When her phone battery dies, she tries to use a lighter and sees faces of the dead in the dark until she finally manages to light a flame, stopping the hallucinations. She finds the breaker box and restores power, then finds Paul on the floor nearly asleep and wakes him up before it's too late. The group confronts Amir about the stimulants and the power box. He insists he threw the stimulants away as a precaution and didn't touch the fuses because he didn't even know where they were. Ray hits him, and he and Paul tie Amir to a chair. Vanessa and Ray are convinced Amir is hiding something and decide to force a confession. Ray takes a knife and threatens to hurt him every time he lies, while Amir begs them to listen because they have gone crazy. Claire intervenes, shouting that Amir has a cure. When Ray insists it's another lie to kill them, Claire volunteers to try it first so they'll know if it's safe. The group agrees but refuses to untie Amir, so he instructs them from the chair on how to mix the medicine. Paul prepares the formula following Amir's directions, adding iodine slowly and controlling the temperature so it doesn't overheat. Meanwhile, Vanessa speaks secretly with Ray, confessing she saw him tamper with the fuse. Ray admits he wanted Amir to fall asleep to prove he hadn't taken the drug like the others and was faking it. Vanessa then reveals she found a fast-acting sedative. If Claire gets distracted, she can get to Amir and find out if he's lying. Claire and Amir talk while waiting for the formula to be ready. Amir explains that after the injection, she will have a stroke and the TPA will bring her back, but if it doesn't work, it will kill her instantly. Claire says she figured as much. Amir confesses that when Blackwood invited him to the study, he thought they saw someone focused and determined, willing to dedicate everything to his career. But now, he thinks they saw someone with no family, no friends, no connection to anyone. someone no one would miss. He feels he was wrong about his whole life. Claire tells him if they get out, they'll have another chance. When Amir asks what he would do with another chance since he doesn't even know what he wants anymore, Claire replies that she just wants to see the sun because they've been in that basement so long it feels like a distant memory. Amir says that's not a big goal, but Claire replies it's a start. Paul announces the formula is ready. Amir instructs him to wait 30 seconds after the injection before giving Claire the TPA. While everyone is focused on the final preparations, Vanessa sneaks up on Amir with the sedative, but suddenly her body collapses. Vanessa experiences something like an astral projection, watching the others approach her body. Soon, she is enveloped in smoke and darkness, seeing the devil in front of her. She screams as her real body begins to bleed and convulse violently. Paul runs to grab the syringe with the cure, but Vanessa's tremors cause him to drop it, shattering it on the floor. Vanessa vomits and finally dies. To make matters worse, Paul accidentally hits the table, and the vial with the rest of the formula also falls and breaks. Amir starts laughing hysterically because all their work has just been lost. Claire steps away from the group to look at the clock, but her blurred vision only shows the words, "Good night." She hears her mother's voice again as darkness invades her mind. Her body seems to float while celestial music plays. But Claire fights the hallucination and throws herself to the floor to reach her last packet of smelling salts, managing to grab it and wake up at the last moment. Then, she hears a strange noise and hits the living room wall, discovering it is hollow. With Paul's help, she tears down the wallpaper and finds a hidden autopsy room behind it. They explore the area and discover an elevator used to transport bodies. Claire excitedly realizes it's an exit and wants to tell the others, but Paul stops her, suggesting they leave alone. He argues that Ray and Amir are dead weight and they'd be safer without them. Claire refuses to leave them behind. Meanwhile, Amir continues to see Burke, who now whispers twisted thoughts to him. She claims Claire left him tied up and alone, and that even if they found a way out, they wouldn't take him. The hallucination insists the only way out is alone, and points to the knife Claire left nearby. In the bedroom, Ray finds Vanessa's body and the confession letter in her pocket. Furious to learn Amir caused the lockdown, he hunts him down with a scalpel while Amir screams for help. Claire hears the screams and rushes back, leaving Paul no choice but to follow. In the lab, Ray prepares to exact his revenge, but Amir manages to break free from his restraints and fights back. Amir jumps on Ray, stabbing him with the scalpel during the struggle. Then, completely losing control to the sickness and hallucinations, he grabs the knife and repeatedly stabs Ray to death. Claire and Paul arrive and try to calm Amir down, but the hallucination of Burke urges him to finish the job. They flee immediately. Paul hides in the autopsy room, locking the door behind him and leaving Claire trapped outside. Claire runs to the MRI room. Amir catches her and throws her inside, accidentally activating the machine. Just as he is about to stab her, the magnets rip the knife from his hand. Claire seizes the moment to kick him away and escape. Paul reaches the elevator and activates it, recording a video claiming to be the sole survivor. But it isn't an elevator, it's an incinerator. Flames erupt from the walls and Paul burns to death, screaming. Claire finds a pair of scissors to defend herself while Amir retrieves his knife and chases her. Both are completely exhausted when suddenly the clock hits 0 and a voice announces the lockdown is over. The lights turn on and the doors open, but armed men storm in and immediately shoot Amir dead. Claire hides as the men sweep the area and place all the bodies into bags. Once the coast is clear, Claire covers her face in blood and climbs into an empty body bag to play dead. One of the men checks her but assumes she was already processed, so they throw her into the back of a truck with the others. Inside the truck, Claire hallucinates a dead Allison in the bag with her. She closes her eyes and hums a lullaby her mother used to sing. When she opens them again, she sees a friendly version of Allison, who smiles before vanishing. Once the truck is far enough away, Claire unzips the bag. The driver sees her in the rearview mirror, panics, loses control, and crashes. Claire crawls out of the wreckage, but her body finally gives out, and she collapses after a few steps. 4 months later, Claire remains in a coma at a hospital. A news report announces that Blackwood Pharmaceuticals has been cleared of any wrongdoing. They express regret for the senseless tragedy, hoping to end the circulating conspiracy theories, calling them an insult to the victims and their families. The company declares it remains committed to its vision of a better future through better medicine, stating that nothing will stand in its way. The entire incident was pinned on Dr. Burke.